You are listening to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. I'm Kyle Bryant.
And I'm Sean Baumsart. Together, we're navigating life with disability. Welcome back to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. This is episode 27. We have yet another special episode for you today. In September, Kyle and I were in Tampa for the FARA Energy Ball, which is a large, huge, massive fundraiser for the Friedreich's Ataxia Research Alliance. While we were in Tampa, we did a live recording with three of our friends who also live with the FA. We did this to get their perspective on living with Friedreich's Ataxia, and we had this conversation in front of a live audience, and we wanted to share that experience and that conversation with you today.
In episode 26, the last episode, we mentioned 3 challenges. We challenged each other to do 100 push-ups for 30 days, 100 push-ups a day for 30 days. We challenge each other to write down everything we eat for 30 days and also to write down 5 things we've learned in life. And we're going to talk about those and we're going to share those things. But we are going to do that in an episode that's going to come out in a couple days. For now, in the interest of time, we wanted to give you the recording from Tampa. So here we go. We are here now. We made it through all that craziness. And so like I was saying, just to set the scene for people who are listening, to my left is 3 of our friends that we're going to interview. And then out in front of us is a huge, huge crowd of people.
Hundreds.
That is here.
Yeah.
Hundreds. There we are. So that is here to see the live podcast. So we're really excited. So without further ado, I want to introduce everybody to Michael Gare. And I want to give Michael a few minutes to introduce himself.
I believe that is me. Hello, I'm Michael Gare, as was previously mentioned. I was diagnosed with FA at 15 in 2016. Sorry, I get that confused. In January. And I'm currently 17 years old, by the way. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. So, a long time ago, when I was very young, the school contacted my parents and was like, dude, your son is, like, bad at sports. And my parents were like, okay. And so for about a year, my parents kept on making the observation, like, yeah, they were right, he is. And then they were like, man, we should probably, like, go see a doctor. So they did. And the doctor conducted a few tests and ran a blood test, and they actually hooked me up to a machine where they shocked me and then found out how my nerves responded. So that was a lot of fun. And I was diagnosed with a disease called Charcot-Marie-Tooth, and that was in December of 2011. So I had, if you will, Charcot-Marie-Tooth for about 4 years, and then in December of 2015, my neurologist said, basically, it's progressing a little faster than we would have thought. We're going to look at you more, make more observations, and run another test. And it was then revealed to me that, in fact, I have Friedreich's Ataxia, which was a lot of fun. I got a free upgrade.
Well said. Can't beat that.
So, Michael, I wanted to point something out because I think it's sort of interesting in terms of diagnosis. When you were diagnosed with Charcot-Marie-Tooth, that was just sort of like a default diagnosis, right? Can you explain a little bit about that?
Well, what happened was there were like about 90 different kinds of Charcot-Marie-Tooth, and only a select few of them, not a few, but I mean some of them are diagnosable via a DNA test. So they tested me, they sent my blood in, and the test came back negative, but the symptoms and everything matched up so well that they were like, it's probably that. So,
So the doctor said the DNA says black and white, no. But
No.
we think that's wrong.
well, no, and no. I was...
Perfect. Next question.
Okay, hold up. Let me explain that. So, I was not told at the time that the diagnosis was not conclusive, but the situation was, if it was one of the other forms of CMT that could not be tested for with DNA, it would have come back negative. So if it had been that, it would have been negative. But I wasn't even told that, that was a possibility. I was just told A, the test came back, and B, you have CMT. So
Which was obviously not true. And
yeah, that's correct. It was not true.
all right, sounds good. Well, I just think I don't think that's an uncommon thing. I think that CMT with the FA, it sounds like CMT is a fairly common misdiagnosis, and I wanted to point out your situation because it might not be uncommon out there.
So, I'm Kate Walker, and I am 14 years old. I was diagnosed May of 2016 when I was 13. So, the October before my diagnosis, we went on a school trip to Washington, D.C., and I noticed I couldn't keep up with my friends. I was really tired at the end of the day, and even before that, I had noticed that I just was not great at balancing. But then on the Washington trip, it became more of like a point where I would ask my mom, hey, what's going on? Something's happening here. This is not normal. I mean, everyone was tired, but I had a long extent of it. And so we came back from that trip, and we went to just see if we could get physical therapy. And that doctor was like, I don't think physical therapy is going to help here. Something else is going on. And so he sent us to a neurologist. I guess the neurologist kind of knew it was FA. He didn't tell us that, but he wasn't sure, so he sent us to a pediatric neurologist who had seen FA before, so we were very lucky, and he sent us straight to do genetic testing, and then a couple of weeks later, we had the diagnosis of FA. And that whole process took about 5 months, which we were very lucky that we were quick to have answers.
All right. Tell us something fun about yourself. What do you like to do in your free time, if you have any?
Well, right now my entire life is school because I just started high school, so I mean...
Just started? How's that transition for you?
Well, it's not bad because it's the same school, so... It's not as major as going to a different school would be, but it's still terrifying.
So, when it comes to high school, is there something special in the fall that you're getting ready for?
Homecoming.
Oh. And you just don't want to talk about that? Or?
I don't know. Do you want me to talk about that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Who's the dude? Because we're watching him closely.
Yeah. She doesn't want to talk about that.
Oh, all right. I
Too
see.
specific. Well, we're excited you got into high school and you're pursuing all that fun stuff.
All right. Thank you, Kate. Let's hear from Jean Walsh.
So I am obviously the youngest person here on this panel. Closer. There you go. Okay. So I'm 54. Does that mean no? It's thunder.
No, that's not your
I'm 54. I was diagnosed when I was 19, which was 35 years ago. In, 1981 I was diagnosed. It was a super scary time for my family and I. And similar to Michael, I had, electrodes attached to my head and nerve impulse studies and that kind of stuff. Compared to other people, though, at that time, or even today, I went through quite a while of them not knowing what was going on, but I didn't really go through a time like Michael did of being misdiagnosed. It took about 2 years. And the first kind of symptoms, really in retrospect, we knew stuff was going on. Like every time I hit a patch of ice, I was falling down. But when I look back on myself, I was an avid horseback rider. And so one of the first things you learn when you ride is heels down and heads up. Well, I've been riding for like 10 years, and I could no longer do the heads up part because I had to look down at my hands and my feet to really know what I was doing. So that's kind of the retrospect part. Another really scary part of the diagnosis back in 81, this is what I heard. I'll probably be dead by 35. I will probably be using a wheelchair in my late 20s at the latest, probably before then. And then the neurologist had me leave the room and told my parents I would probably be an addict. So
how'd that turn out?
Well,
did you prove them wrong? Or?
Yeah, I
okay,
definitely
or right? Yeah, we can talk about that.
Even though I'm the youngest up here, I proved him wrong.
Sean wants to buy you a drink.
Yeah. So it was a scary time, but we made our way through it as a family.
Nice. I like it. So,
any fun or interesting facts about yourself?
I do have a fun fact. Sorry. I love to garden, so that usually means that I take myself in my wheelchair outside, and I get out of my wheelchair and I sit in the dirt, and I come back into the house and I look like Pigpen. Seriously. Like dirt is coming off me everywhere.
that's how you can tell you had a good time, right? How dirty you got.
Exactly.
Yeah, nice. All right, Gene, so I want to keep the microphone with you for a second. How do you describe FA to someone who doesn't know about it?
Usually I say it's a rare genetic disease that it attacks multiple systems. Virtually everyone has neurological symptoms, but it can cause heart disease, diabetes, scoliosis. I usually don't add in the vision and the hearing and stuff.
Yeah. But the point is, I think, that it's multi-system disease. It affects everything we do. You know, we describe it as a neuromuscular disease sometimes. But, I mean, it affects all systems of the body and almost every cell in our body. So, I think that's an important thing. So, yeah, I love that. Thank you, Gene.
And we know that, like, scientifically speaking, that's kind of what's going on in terms of the cause of FA. And, you know, I don't think I heard it, but the basic protein that we're missing out on is frataxin. But what I'm curious about, maybe from Kate and Michael, is how this currently is affecting your day-to-day. So, Kate, we're going to go back to you since you're right next door. How does, you know, understanding the impact that Gene talks about, how does that affect your day-to-day activities?
Well, one of the things that, because I am in high school and a lot of the people don't understand what's going on or are completely oblivious to it. So usually when they ask me what FA is, or if they ask me, is there something going on with you, I just tell them that it's a degenerative neuromuscular condition, and then they look at me like I'm crazy. And then...
What are you talking about?
And then I usually just say that it makes me have trouble with my balance and coordination because that's the way that most people can understand it. And so basically at school there are certain accommodations that I have to have. So at the beginning of every school year, we meet with all of my teachers for that year, and we kind of just tell them what's going on, what we need, what we don't need, that sort of thing. So our school has been very accommodating. They let us, I can type on test when there's like discussion questions or something like that, and they all just make accommodations for me when I need it. And we talked to them, and we said that I don't really like being the center of attention, that sort of thing. So they've been really good about helping me through that.
Now, wait a minute. You don't like being the center of attention, but here you are in front of a crowd with a microphone in your hand talking about your story. How does that work?
I don't know.
All right.
It does depend on the situation. So one of the accommodations that one of my teachers does for me is that I'm sitting in the front of the class in one of my classes, and the teachers usually give us a stack of papers to pass back to the rows behind us. And so my Spanish teacher, I have trouble getting the first page out of the stack, so she gives it to a second person and gives me the first one. And that's just something that helps me a lot, but no one else really notices. Yeah. And then there are certain things. I have good friends, and so one of my friends has a strap on her backpack that she lets me hold on to, and they all know what it looks like when I'm having trouble, so they'll just come help me without me having to say anything.
Yeah. How simple are those things, right? And how important is that, though, when you're struggling, right? It feels so good to have a few things, even just people understanding and recognizing that there is something wrong, right? And that they are thinking of you and making accommodations. I think that's really huge, and it sounds like you have some great teachers and great friends.
I do, and it's good because they are small things, but they help me more than I could ever tell them that it does help me.
Right. Awesome. Good stuff. All right. So, Michael, how does FA affect you day to day? And, I think that it's relevant to talk about how it affects your decisions for, the future, too. Because you're a young kid. Sean is not so young anymore, but you are. So,
just for the record, we were born the same year.
Yeah, but no, Sean, I think you're a couple months older than me, right? Or what?
Barely.
All right, so now we know who is older.
Why is it a bad thing to be the older one?
You'll see when you get older.
The older sibling is always right, Thomas. Okay, so I also am in high school. I'm a senior this year, and it's really been an adventure, getting through all of the school stuff. I go to a pretty good school in Oklahoma City called Heritage Hall. And one of the things it's known for is being a college prep school. Over, I think it's 98 or 9% of graduates from Heritage Hall go to college and get a degree. So that's really an awesome thing. But, one of the things about being such an amazing school is that it requires a lot from you. There's lots of schoolwork and tests, and it's difficult, it's rigorous, it's, it prepares you for college and life after that. So, one of the things that I have found to be very difficult is if another student who's, not me, has a lot of homework one night. They might have maybe, say, 2 hours of homework. And that could be all types of stuff from, doing problems from a math textbook to writing a paper or other things, normal homework activities. But homework, on average, probably takes me 3 or 4 times as long as it does for normal other people.
So, sorry to interrupt, but why describe to everyone why it takes you so long?
All right. And, well, FA first affects the extremities. So one of the first symptoms that will be seen is high arches in the feet. So the feet get worse, and then the knees, and then the, all of the legs. And somewhere in there, that same thing starts happening with hands. So my hands are, but they're not,
That's a technical term, by the way.
That is a technical definition.
Webster's Dictionary under E.
Yeah. So my typing speed is probably about 1/5 or 1/6 of another person, and my writing speed is probably 1/4 of another person. So, really, it's just that, because I can think fine.
At least that's what your parents tell you.
That is what my parents tell me. I'm in difficult classes, and, that does help prepare me, but also it means that the work and stuff is going to be more rigorous and harder to do for me. I was born into a musical family. I was born, a singer, just like both of my parents, and so was my brother, actually. And I remember in lower school, my music teacher would play the same song on a routine basis. It was called I Can See Clearly Now. And I remember that I would sit there in class and actually find harmonies to the music. I have most of the words of Hamilton memorized. But, Hamilton is a rap musical. And rapping is a challenging thing to do if you have FA. Just, getting words out quickly is a challenge. Really doing anything quickly is a challenge, but getting words is one of the things. So it's been really hard for me to see all the things that I love to do and was born good at doing are kind of being, I know this is a little bit overdramatic, but I can't come up with any better way to phrase it, kind of being taken away from me. A lot of aspects of my life that I used to be able to do, I just, can't anymore.
I don't think there's anything over dramatic about that statement whatsoever. It's no matter what skill or talent or outlet or whatever you're talking about, in the moment where you realize you can't grab the one piece of paper off the stack, that has an enormous effect on your psyche, on your emotions, your heart in the moment, and that doesn't go away. It, for somebody living with FA or many other circumstances for that matter, when you're up against something such as all of us are, I don't think you should ever feel the need to downplay the loss that you're experiencing in your life. So I'm actually really thankful that you talk about the challenges that you're up against and the loss that you're experiencing, no matter how big or small or long or short it might be in this moment. So thanks, Michael.
Also, there's no need to apologize for being overdramatic around here because I think Sean and I are probably two of the most dramatic people, over-dramatic people. So.
What I'm curious about is talking about what you've done or what you are doing to help move research along. If we haven't said it yet, for those who don't know, FA does not have any cure treatment right this moment, but there are a lot of opportunities and promising, treatment outlets in the pipeline right now. So will each of you take a moment and share what have you done or what part of research have you participated in?
Well, I've participated in the gait and balance research study at USF, which is basically they're trying to find physical therapies that help with FA. So for the first I've been twice. The first time in January, and then again in June, and I'll go in January again. So for the first half of that, they do the basic neurological tests, like standing there with your eyes closed and saying the president lives in the White House over and over again.
That's like giving the answers to the test right there, and now everyone knows what, Yep.
I was trying to remember what they were, and I can't. The traffic is heavy today.
Okay, and then the second half of that, you go to the physical therapy gym, and they do different things. They have a little sensor where it measures how hard you step when you walk, and then they measure your center balance, and they watch you walk upstairs and do all that kind of thing. So that's what I'm doing right now. We've since I'm 14, I don't apply for a lot of clinical trials or as many of the major successful ones because they usually start at 16. So right now we're just doing that research study, but we plan to do a lot more in the future.
So, you said we're just doing that, but I don't want you to ever use just when you're talking about your participation in research because whether it's an actual clinical trial or not, that is, that's going towards an actual treatment, all of these studies, no matter what, they're going to help our scientists learn about FA. And so your participation or anyone else's participation in these studies, even if they're not official clinical trials, they're pushing the whole understanding of FA along, and they're helping out future trials that come along. So, I really thank you on behalf of the community for participating in the study that you are in.
What has your participation required of you thus far? Do you have to travel? And what is that
Well,
like?
we have to fly to Tampa. I'm not the biggest fan of planes, so I don't mind them. They just make me extremely nervous.
Well, and I also, knowing that, it makes me thank you even more because you're like, all right, whatever it takes. Like, I'll get on this plane if it means I'm going to help research, right? I mean, I think I see that in you, so thank you. Yeah, Michael has a comment here.
When I was in my trial in Columbus, I took 2 planes for round trip about 6 times in the span of 5 months. And I flew so much that American gave me a gold membership. There's another perk. You're looking at an American Gold member here. So,
Wow. And
yeah,
he's only 17.
Yeah, Gene, why don't you give us a little overview of your experience in clinical trials?
So I've been in, 4 or 5, I guess. One is the natural history study, which I've been a part of that for like 13 years. I did 2 studies of drug trial studies specifically for FA, and I've done a couple that are like not specific to FA but specific to metabolic disorder.
Well, just for listeners' sake, they can't see you, so they don't realize that you sit in a chair, that you need a little bit of help to get a drink of water in the morning or a cup of coffee or, to serve yourself lunch. So to be in a room or a hotel without a travel companion and then in a room doesn't make using the restroom or a shower or even getting in and out of bed easy is quite a different picture when you realize that you need the accessible room. It's not just nice because it's bigger.
Right.
There's a legitimate need. And I think to a comment that Kyle had said to Rachel, that gives me such a huge amount of respect for you because you kept going and you keep going. And here we are today, and you've participated in many studies. You do whatever it takes to be a part of the solution. We all do, and I'm so incredibly proud of you all for being a part of that solution and contributing whatever you can, even at such a young age, to do just that small study. Like Kyle said, it's actually helping keep the ball moving. So,
Also, what's up with accessible reservations at hotels? One time I went to a hotel. We made our reservation 6 months in advance, and we got to the hotel, and they said, "Oh, sorry, we can't fulfill your request." We're like, wait, no, it wasn't a request. It was a reservation that we made 6 months ago, And I don't think, unfortunately, I don't think it's an uncommon thing that happens, and it's not good. Let's figure that one out. Any of you out there in the hotel industry?
Yeah, it's not fun.
You all mentioned a lot of travel, and the two kids talked about the, flying a lot and how the trials help pay for some of that travel that makes participation possible. And I think some of that money comes from the efforts of fundraising. And I know, even though we haven't said it yet out loud tonight, I know you've all been involved in fundraising to help move that needle forward, to help make clinical trials possible, to help scientists continue their work in the lab. So what I'm curious about, what does that progress look like to you? What does research progress look like to you?
To me? Well, I guess because I'm so young and was diagnosed in the early years of 1981, when I was diagnosed, they said, take some vitamin E, that might be helpful. See you next year.
How'd that work out? Well, yeah.
FA still kept moving along. Yeah. So now it's so exciting to me that when I go to the FARA website and I look at the FARA pipeline of all the drugs and where they're at in their studies, I see like a huge pipeline and so many things in progress, and I can't imagine that doctors are not giving patients lots of hope that they weren't giving me in 1981. So that's pretty much it.
I would, well, yeah, cool. Thank you, Gene. Kate, how about you? I know you just being diagnosed a year and a half ago, you've already had a huge impact on your community with raising some money for research. What does the research progress look like to you? What's it mean to you?
Well, in April, my family and I put together a team and we went to ride ataxia in Dallas, and that was our first big FA event, if you want to call it that. So we raised $28,000. So we were extremely grateful after that, and we got second place in that fundraising for the ride. And then a couple weeks ago, Kyle came down to Louisiana, and we fed him a bunch of fried food. It was great. And then we had a showing of the ataxia, and there were 186 people. And so we filled the movie theater, and we raised $6,000 for that.
That's amazing.
So in the past year and a half, we've raised almost $35,000. So we're very excited, and we tell people all the time they don't want to donate because they're like, I can't write you a check for $1,000, so I'm just not going to donate at all because it's not really going to help. And I'm like, if you give us $5, it can go towards buying somebody a new microscope, and then somebody could look in that microscope and find the cure for FA. So you never know what your money is going towards.
Yep. And a small amount makes a big impact, like you said. Cool. Well, I want to commend you and your family for the urgency that you've shown, and just for attacking this thing head on. For me, maybe you're more mature than I am, but I mean, it took
There's
me.
no maybe to it.
Yeah. It took me 2 years before I was even able to talk about it out loud, and much less tell my whole community and get people motivated and, active in solving the problem. So, I think that says a lot about you and your family and your community. So, to just attack it like you have been. So it's really awesome.
Yeah, I think I love and just the whole perspective of every dollar counting. I think it's really easy in our day and age to be intimidated by the billions that are needed to fight any condition, from cancer to AIDS to living with FA. There's so much need in our world, and it's easy to be, like you said, I can't write a check for $1,000, so I'm not going to do anything. And I think that's such an unfortunate way of thinking because, people too often think their $5, $10, $20 won't have an impact. And I think we all know better. Like every dollar counts, whether it's helping buy that new microscope or help getting Michael that, gold membership status during his travels, or whether it's help just keeping the lights on in that particular lab or whatever it is. There's money always needed. It's not just funneled to drug manufacturing, which might be a big expense. There's so much. You got to pay rent. You got to hire a staff. You got to buy pencils for the office. I don't even know what doctors need.
Dude, who uses pencils anymore, man?
I don't know.
Me.
Okay.
It's a requirement for school. It's a
Sorry,
requirement.
She can erase all her mistakes.
Number 2.
So anyway, I'm just glad that you point that out because, and we're not going to ask people for money, but you can always go to curefa.org if you feel so moved. But every dollar really does count. So thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah, and I think this also brings to mind that, FARA, the Friedrichs Ataxia Research Alliance, almost a third of the budget that goes towards research is raised by families. $20 here, $20 there, $100 here, and that adds up to $28,000, and then that adds up to millions that go towards research. And so it's really important to understand that your $5, your $20, your $100 goes a long ways.
That's cool. No, that's all right. All right, I want to keep going off script for just a moment. But this one's for Kate. Why? Why do you raise money? Why do you participate in trials?
Well, we raise money because finding a cure is important to all of us, obviously, but because I think that even if we do find a cure, that could let us do things that we want to do, whether it's sing or garden without getting covered in mud.
That wouldn't be any fun. No, I love it.
Gene, one more. Why do you do it?
Because, well, I'm so happy and honored to meet people like Michael and Katie. I don't want to meet them because they have FA and I have FA. I want them to be as happy and healthy as possible. So that is why. And, well, I'll add one more thing. Another why is I have FAA, you know. If I don't do it, who will?
Simple as that. I like it.
You know, I think we, just for the sake of those who maybe listen to the podcast, we recently had a psychologist on an episode, Dr. Dan Gottlieb, and we asked him the question, why, you know, when you're diagnosed with something and you go through a phase of asking, why me? Like, why is this my burden? Why do I have to deal with this? And he talks about he never really walked through that phase. Instead, he has this fantasy of sorts that is similar to that statement. Well, why not you? Like, what kind of impact might you have because it is you and because you choose to make a difference?
That was a great episode, by the way. I loved it.
Did you rate it and give us a review?
No, but I will.
Yeah. All right. No, yeah, Dr. Dan Gottlieb is an amazing person, and I feel like I could just sit and listen to him talk for like hours, you know, and I do from his audiobook.
Episode 22, if you're curious.
For this episode, we wanted to say thank you to a few specific people and organizations. The first one is the Friedrich's Ataxia Research Alliance. We wanted to thank the Avery family, and we are going to be interviewing Paul for our next episode, Paul Avery, so check that out. I want to thank the Tampa community for their huge support of the FARA Energy Ball. The University of South Florida and Dr. Z for their strong partnership in the journey to cure FA. Ava Forney, who is the mastermind behind all the planning and execution of the Energy Ball. Of course, our incredible guests on our panel, Jean, Kate, and Michael. And we also want to thank you for listening. Thanks so much. Thank you for listening to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. Find us online at twodisableddudes.com. And please subscribe and review on Apple Podcasts.
We'd like to hear from you. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Special thanks to our audio producer, Jake Tompkins, who also composed the music.
Until next time, keep living with urgency.